Dawn had only just whispered silver across the rooftops of Old Town when the bells of the starry sept tolled a cautious, trembling note. It was not the proud brazen peal with which those bells once celebrated coronations or tourneys. This was softer, as though the septons feared that too bold a clangor might rouse some sleeping beast beneath the cobbles. The rain-washed mists lingered stubbornly in the streets, muffling every sound. Yet even through the fog men paused in their sweeping, women paused in their prayers, and children paused in their dreams, heads cocked toward the hidden heavens. Something had changed in the night. Something had shifted upon its silent hinge, altering the angles of the world. But no one could yet name it. In the vaulted gallery of the citadel, the obdurate air was thick with tallow smoke and dust from ancient pages. Grand Maester Orwell spoke first, his beard an untamed cataract of snow tumbling down a chest that rose and fell with quiet dread. A raven in darkness bears darker tidings. His fingers trembled upon the parchment. This is no pretender's boast, no folly of some hedge knight. It is sealed with Baelish wax and countersigned by the Lady of Winterfell herself. Across the long oak table, the Sphinx, Archmaester Alaris, regarded the Grand Maester over a steeple of slender fingers. Titles mean little until they are answered upon the field. Alaris whispered in the tongue of the Summer Isles. Yet a title spoken in the Reach still shakes the arbor roots in Dorne and rattles the oaths of the Stormlands. Overnight there is unrest from the Honeywine to the Dornish marches. Old Pylos, whose ring and mask and rod of iron marked him keeper of histories, cleared a dry throat. The raven names her queen in the west, he recited. Not queen of flowers, nor queen of sand, nor queen of wine, but queen of a new realm cleft from the wealthiest lands in all Westeros. A realm that would stretch from the Mander's green cradle to the water gardens. He lifted pale eyes. Such audacity is the spark by which great wars are kindled. No one argued. Outside those thick walls, after all, Orwell's raven would not be the only bird winging south. Rumors moved faster than ravens, and ambition faster still. Far to the east of Old Town, where the Mander wound sleepy and slow past the apple orchards and golden wheat fields, the towering skeleton of once-proud Highgarden cast long morning shadows across its rebuilding. The castle's scorched stones and charred rose banners told their own tale, a tale of dragonfire and lost glory. Yet even in ruins, Highgarden remained the pulse of the Reach, and it was there that Lord Petyr Baelish set the stage for his latest mirage. A murmur of expectation rippled through the half-rebuilt throne room as banners unfamiliar to the Reach unfurled upon every breeze. Grey direwolf on white field, Baelish's mockingbird. Even the 3A-feathered Manderly merman appeared beside the apples of Fossaway and the green hand of historic Gardener kings. It was a hall half patchwork, half prophecy, awaiting its heart, and presently she entered, silent as first frost, draped in northern sable lined with Reachmen, velvet the shade of bruised sunset. Lady Sansa Stark paused upon the charred steps where roses once bloomed. She heard them calling her queen already. She felt the weight of 1,000 staring eyes, but carried it with the grace of a swan gliding across a lake darkened by storm clouds. Somewhere in the shadows her sister Arya might have flinched at the pageantry. Bran might have murmured of tangled threads. Jon might have frowned with quiet worry. But none of them were here, and Sansa had long since learned that absence is the softest cloak beneath which a wolf may grow its fangs. "Your Grace," Littlefinger announced, making a feast of the words. He wore a doublet of silk so black it drank every mote of light, yet its buttons gleamed crimson like drops of fresh spilled wine. "Lords and ladies of the Reach, of Old Town, of the Marches, kneel before your queen in the west, sovereign protector of the Mander, High Lady of the Red Mountain's shadow, Rouge Wolf of Highgarden and Winterfell, Queen in the West." How easily they spoke it now. A fortnight prior the Reach had belonged to no one but its memory and its ashes, fractured by Tyrell ghosts, by Lannister occupation, by dragons whose queen lay dead at King's Landing. In the smoldering aftermath, Petyr Baelish had arrived not as a conqueror, but as a gardener, seed in pocket, honey on tongue. He promised restoration. Then he promised something greater. For the Reach had always fed the Seven Kingdoms. What if the lady who fed you, asked but one small tribute in return. Oaths bend easily when their stewards hunger. Yet even a gardener needs fertile ground. Littlefinger had found it in lords resentful of King Bran's edicts, in merchants denied their former profits by river tariffs, in ladies who had lost sons to Lannister folly and daughters to Targaryen flame. To each, he whispered, a different dream. To each he offered Sansa as mirror of their yearning. A northern queen tempered by southern bloom, just weathered enough to see them, just young enough to inspire them. And Sansa, who had endured Joffrey's sneer and Ramsay's cruelty, and the icy judgment of the Vale, stood serene in the midst of a hall, still redolent of wildfire. She did not smile, not yet. Her beauty was a blade honed on silent grief, and as she surveyed the kneeling assembly she wondered which would betray her first. The apple, the rose, or the mockingbird. When she spoke her voice carried, not loud, but crystalline, each word a raindrop striking water. I accept the crown you offer not for my own aggrandizement, but because the West cries for shepherds with gentle hands and sharp eyes. The Reach lies wounded. Dorne smolders behind its deserts. The stormlands reel. Together we will weave a peace none shall unravel. Together we will weave a peace none shall unravel. She did not mention King's Landing. She did not need to. The smoking capital was ghost at every banquet now, rattling chains only the foolish could not hear. Littlefinger stepped backward, allowing the silence to bloom. Then, with deft theatrics, he produced a circlet fashioned not of gold but of living branches, twined with frost-sparked winter roses. The smiths of Old Town had labored weeks to craft it, forging iron stalks sheathed in thin silver. Each petal a small miracle. Baelish's fingers brushed Sansa's reed-to-gold hair as he set the circlet upon her brow, and his lips curved in congratulation, or consumption, one could not tell. Let them kneel, he thought, hazel eyes flicking across bowed heads. Let them dream they are free. In dreams begin dominions. Across the hall, a fond smile ghosted upon the face of Sir Harold Harding, new-made Lord Protector of the Vale, in all but name, his eagles arrayed behind him. He had cast off his boyish braids for armor black and silver, and those tanned cheeks had weathered valley winds these last months. The Vale's levy stood ready on the east road, not so many spears as the Reach could raise, but sharper than need be. He had come not solely for Sansa, for there was talk of alliance, of union, of a realm spanning from Bloody Gate to the Summer Sea. The lords of the Reach bowed lower still, each measuring neighbor and newcomer through lashes and narrowed lids. The Fossaways of New Beryl and Old had arrived together yet separate, red apples and green. Their quiet feud paused, but never buried. Sir Tarly, gaunt yet unbroken after years of battle, offered minimal obeisance. Others, Rowan, Hightower, Merryweather, knelt with various degrees of earnestness or calculation. Yet every bowed head deepened the spell. It was done. A queen was crowned, and a kingdom half-born breathed its first. Somewhere, perhaps, King Bran dreamed of roots stretching southward, feeling his realm slither from his grasp. Somewhere, Sir Davos might be counting ships in Blackwater Bay, wondering how many could sail west before the harvest moon. And somewhere, in a Dornish keep of red stone, a young lord named Corin Gargalon weighed the price of roses against the sting of thorns. Baelish lingered beside a flickering brazier long after the last banners had departed the throne room. The stones still stank of char and damp mortar. Every gust brought whirls of ash that glittered in torchlight like a quiet snowfall. He studied those motes, seeing sigils and coinage and promises in their dance. A soft footstep disturbed his reverie. "My lord," murmured Maester Giles, a mild man of 50 who smelled of parchment and poppy. "The ravens fly. By dusk every corner of the Reach will know her name, along with half the ships in Old Town Harbor." Baelish turned, offering a conspirator's smile. "Let them know. A rumor is a blade whose point is sharpest when unseen. We show them just enough steel." He plucked a piece of ash from his doublet. "Send separate birds to the arbor and to Sunspear. Different tongues, different promises. The queen in the west is eager to know her neighbors. Giles hesitated. The Arbor will want trade concessions. You're Lord Baelish. Titles blurred at times. He was Master of Coin, once Lord of Harrenhal, and Baelish lands of nil account. Now some called him Hand of the Queen, though no handpan graced his chest. And Sunspear. The maester's eyes darted left, seeking assurance no one lurked within earshot. Prince Quentin Sand sits uneasy on a scorpion's throne. He may demand a bride, or blood, or both to stay neutral. Or he may relish the thought of a reach too busy with itself to trouble Dorne, Baelish countered. Regardless, we must seem cooperative. Remind the Dornish that the north wind seldom reaches the desert with any true strength. Better they bend it toward King's Landing, where their old enemies sit. A flick of those slender fingers, dismissal and command alike. See to it. When the maester left, Baelish allowed himself a moment of delicious solitude. The smell of power was as real to him as roasted boar. It clung to his tongue, rich and smoky. Yet beneath the savor lay the tang of risk, sharper than vinegar. He savored that too. One did not ascend the rungs of chaos without prizing every tremor. A flicker in the corner of his eye. His shadow wavered, displaced by another. You should be with the revelers, he said without turning. A queen's presence oils every tongue. Sansa emerged from behind a broken pillar, her circlet replaced by a plain silk hood. There is no revel, she said quietly. I asked them to return to their men, their fields, their books. Until we lift grain from these ashes, gold rings and song will taste like guilt. Baelish studied her. Some women wore pity as a mask. Sansa wore practicality as armor. Mercy buys love, my queen. Prudence keeps it. He tilted his head. One day you will need both. One day, I may need blades sharper than both. She replied. The Reach is wounded but not docile. They bow, yet their coffers are empty, their barns aflame, their sons scattered across half the wars of the last decade. They will follow whoever fills those coffers, stocks those barns, buries those sons. She glanced about. You have promised them all three. What have you truly in hand? A ledger balanced on belief, Baelish said. But belief can buy grain faster than gold can sprout from charred soil. The Hightowers remained solvent. The Old Town granaries were spared. The Arbor's wines fetch ransom prices in Lys and Volantis. And Dorne holds water, Sansa finished. Water more precious than wine. They will not part with it for a clever song. Yet, they might for a clever marriage. Baelish mused. Or for a guarantee of autonomy and a Reach allied against the Stormlands. It will take patience, I grant you, but even the quickest serpent must coil before it strikes. Sansa folded her hands. She wore no jewel save a silver ring wrought like a dire wolf biting its tail. Patience I have in measure. Coiling I leave to snakes. He smiled then, real as sunrise. Spoken like a queen who knows her throne is built of rumors and kneeling men. You will do well. She opened her mouth to reply, but steel clanged in the corridor. A mailed fist on bronze. Sir Harold Harding strode through the archway, helm beneath his arm, blonde hair damp with sweat. He bowed. Your Grace, Lord Baelish. Scouts have returned. A column of Stormlanders camps near Bitterbridge. They fly the Stag of Baratheon, and... His blue eyes darted toward Baelish, the crowned heart of Lady Baratheon. Shira Rowan's bastard turned. Baelish's brow arched at news of the boy Smith made lord. Bitterbridge, he repeated, tasting the significance. Gateway to the Heartland. They move early. Harding shifted. Their numbers are small. More vanguard than army. End. Not small enough if their banners reach Tumbleton, Sansa said. These towns have known too many banners of late. Bring them more, they will burn them all. Baelish's mind raced. Gendry, forged in Flea Bottom, hammered by war, crowned by queen now dead, What debt did he owe the Starks? And what debt did he owe to the lords of the Reach whose daughters his men might plunder? We cannot allow a Stormlander foothold, he concluded. Yet, nor must we charge in force. A small envoy, flags of parley, gifts of bread and salt. No, Sansa said, and for a moment, the brazier flame seemed to align with her hair, casting a red halo. We send the Queen. Harding's helm clattered as he knelt anew. Too dangerous, too necessary. Sansa's voice did not rise, but something in it cut the air. If I am to be queen of anything, I must show the realm my crown is more than a stolen rose wreath. Stormlanders will respect courage, and the small folk will see a ruler who walks unarmored among them. Baelish opened his mouth, but she raised a hand. I will ride with 12 Vale Knights and half as many Reachmen. Not an army, merely an escort. Lord Baelish will remain here to continue the harvest Ylvi. Sir Harold will command at my side. By the time we return, Bitterbridge will either rise with us or stand aside. Harding glanced at Baelish, waiting for the objection he knew must come. But Baelish's eyes narrowed into slits of bright amusement. She plays her own board now, he thought. Good. One, let the world see her brave, and let the world learn who taught her bravery. Very well, he said. But take with you the badge of the Wolf Rose, forged this morning. Let every soldier from here to Storm's End know the Queen in the West travels beneath her own sign. She inclined her head in acceptance. Then we ride at sunrise. And the ride south to Bitterbridge unspooled like a tapestry sewn from 100 distinct threads of fear and hope. Villages near the Mander greeted them with half-mended fences and wary eyes. Men who once cheered Tyrell colors now stared as if questioning their own safety in cheering at all. Sansa spoke little, but each stop she dismounted first, offered thanks for whatever bread or onions they could spare, listened to widow and miller alike, and left behind more coin than the fare was worth. That night around a willow-creaking campfire just north of the bridge itself, Harold Harding sat beside the Queen, helm at his boots. Flame lit the freckles across his cheeks, and in that glow the fear in his gaze was naked as a child's. I swore to Lord Royce I would guard you from every harm, he told her softly. Yet here we are, 2 days' ride from High Garden, the Stormlands a mile ahead, and a river between. If the stag means treachery, then we find out before the treachery grows, she finished. A bruise, left untended, festers. He offered a faint smile. A horse left unshod stumbles. My father used to say it. Yours was a wise man. Harold laughed, a puff of white into the cooling night. He was an archer who hated horses. People are never only one thing, Your Grace. And Sansa stared at the sparks swirling skyward. Nor are queens. Bitterbridge smelled of fish oil and wet straw. The Mander's waters churned sluggishly beneath the wooden spans. Cart after cart rattled across under watchful Stormland eyes. When Sansa rode through the east gate, the town square fell silent, but for the cause of river crows, perched upon thatch and rope. Banners snapped in the wind. A black stag on gold, crowned heart on green. The latter looked almost Tyrell, yet not. A kingdom ray-forged in smithy and sweat. Gendry Baratheon awaited near the moss-grown fountain, broad chest clad in battered steel plate. A smith's hammer slung across his back in place of sword. His bastard's blue eyes lingered on Sansa as she dismounted. Lady Stark, he said, uncertain. Queen, corrected Harold. Gendry's jaw tensed. Titles change swift as rivers in this new world, it seems. Forgive me. Sansa stepped closer, feeling the assembled guards lean inward. No forgiveness needed, she said. I come seeking understanding, not obeisance. Your men camp upon Reach land without summons. That stirs unease. We're following a charter, Gendry replied. He produced a stiff parchment bearing the broken seal of King Bran. The king bid us safeguard roads while the realm recovers. Bandits flourish when harvests fail. Yet the king did not bid you plant your banners so publicly. Why flaunt them? A woman approached, Lady Shira Baratheon, née Rowan, cloak of chartreuse and crimson swirling behind. Her voice was as thick as honey wine. Because shame breeds suspicion, your grace. We have nothing to hide. We shield these folk from pillage. Damn? Sansa regarded her, recalling childhood glimpses of Shira at King's Landing feasts, rumored half-sister to Marguerite Tyrell, and yet your presence unsettles them. They have known too many shields. Some cut the arm beneath. Shira's lips parted in retort, but Gendry raised a gloved hand. If our presence offends, we'll withdraw across the Mander, he offered. But give me 3 days to finish repairing this bridge. Without it, trade between North Reach and South collapses. Winter grain spoils in wagons. Fish rot in barrels before they reach Old Town. And Sansa studied the half-mended span. Fresh planks, railed and tarred. The pounding of hammers echoed. Stormlanders and Reachmen toiled side by side. Then finish your work, she said. And when it's done, leave. A company of Queen's men will take your place. But leave tools and plans, not ruin. Gendry's brow furrowed. Queen's men. She pointed to the badge on her cloak. Direwolf entwined with winter rose. My standard. The realm's coin will pay them. I will not see fields stripped or tolls bled. Your loyalty to the king is noted. Mine lies with the people caught beneath these banners. They have bled enough. Then, wordless seconds passed. Then Gendry's shoulders lowered. I swore to protect the small folk, he muttered. If that protection now passes to you, so be it. We'll depart once the last bolt's driven. Shira's eyes flashed, but she inclined her head. May we sup with you tonight, your grace? The queen's table is richer than a campfire's stew. If you bring your own wine? Sansa replied. Shira laughed, a trilling sound somewhere between admiration and mockery. Lady Rowan's cellars are never bare. Now, in a riverside inn that night, grain porridge steamed beside roast river trout, while a rain of soft voices rose and fell beneath the rafter lanterns. Sansa sat at a long plain table, queen among carpenters and soldiers, listening more than speaking. Gendry told of cracked anvils and melted banners. Shira told of orphans in Storm's End halls. Sir Harold spoke of the Vale's mountain passes clogged with spring slides. And Sansa, between sips of arbor red, weighed how every tale might thread into her still weaving realm. If the West is to stand, he mused, it must be stitched with 1,000 careful seams, each one small enough not to tear at its neighbor. Later she stepped onto the inn's balcony, river scent thick in cool air. The moon shone fitful behind clouds, and across the Mander campfires winked like fireflies. Gendry joined her, boots scuffing weathered planks. You remind me of her, he said quietly. Sansa knew whom he meant without asking. Daenerys. He nodded. She spoke for those without voices. But she forgot to listen to those who did. Sansa's breath misted. If I forget, remind me. I'd sooner a friend's rebuke than history's. Nah. Friend? Gendry's smile was crooked. Storm and Wolf have been foes longer than either of us has drawn breath. Then let our breath mark the turning. They stood in silence, listening to the river roll. And 3 mornings later, Sansa watched Gendry's banners dwindle eastward along the Rose Road, their black stags glinting beneath weak sun. The bridge stood complete, fresh planks aromatic with pitch. Her own men replaced the Stormlanders at its ends, wearing patched coats without sigils. Yet beneath each coat a new badge awaited sewing. The wolf rose. Harold Harding rode up, reins damp with dew. We won a truce with courtesy alone, he said. Baelish will be beside himself. That depends whether you judge courtesy by words or by eyes. She glanced at retreating columns. Gendry will speak of this at King's Landing. Bran will know. Let him. Harold's grin flashed. The king in the east commands ravens. The queen in the west commands roads. Let's see which travels faster. Mentau. Sansa urged her horse forward, hooves clopping on new boards. For a heartbeat she felt the planks tremble under weight. Hers. Her retinue's, the weight of choice. Somewhere behind them the Reach breathed easier. Somewhere ahead, Dorne whispered hot winds. Every league they rode would stretch her chain of rule thinner. Every town another link to keep polished, lest it rust. Slowly, she reminded herself. A 5-hour tale seldom reveals its end in the first act. Yet the road south unrolled like parchment, blank and expectant, and upon its promise of dust and blood, she felt Littlefinger's unseen quill already scratching, rewriting borders, rewriting fates. And in the dungeons beneath Highgarden, where cool dampness hushed every sound, Lord Petyr Baelish stood before a cell of uncut stone. Within knelt a man bound by heavy chains, face hidden by a hood. Baelish signaled the jailer. Iron hinges squealed, the hood was lifted, and torchlight fell upon the stubble-row features of Randyll Tarly. "Sir," Petyr greeted, voice silky as river silt. "I trust you find our hospitality adequate?" Tarly's grim eyes burned with a soldier's undying hatred. "Murderer," he rasped. "Usurper. Traitor twice made. 3 times at least." Baelish smiled. "Titles change with the tide. Speaking of tides, the Queen rides to Sunspear soon. I would hate her journey imperiled by hostilities in the marches. What would you have of me?" "Your son," Baelish said simply. "Dickon commands respect among the Greenfields. If he kneels, the Tarly bannermen will follow. I will release you to ride for Horn Hill, oversee the oath." Tarly spat. "And if I refuse?" Baelish drew a slim dagger from sleeve, set it turning so firelight kissed its edge. "Then I fear Horn Hill may find itself queenless of lords in sudden fashion. Rebellions are expensive, corpses are cheaper, but I prefer investments with return." Silence choked the cell. Finally, Tarly exhaled a long, ragged breath. "Dickon obeys honor," he muttered. "Yours lies buried." "Then let him bury me later," Baelish said. "For now, let us plant flowers." And now wonder. When Sansa returned to Highgarden 10 days later, she found new banners flying from the ramparts. The Merman of White Harbor, the Sunspear of Sunspear, hoarded with the Red Scorpion of House Corgyle. Against expectation, the striding huntsman of Horn Hill. She dismounted, pulse quickening. In the courtyard, Baelish awaited, bowing low. "Progress," he purred. "While you forged peace upon the bridge, I sowed seeds in fertile soil. Tarly swears fealty. White Harbor commits ships and silver. Dorne. Well, the prince sends envoys bearing water rights treaties. The west grows." "Then?" Sansa brushed dust from her cloak. "Water may nourish, but thorns protect." "What cost those thorns, Lord Baelish?" "Only what we were willing to pay," he replied. "And everything we were not." She studied him, remembering Winterfell nights beneath strangers' snow. Remembering the cold kiss he once stole upon a parapet. "The realm you build is as fragile as the lies you tell. Then let us keep them beautiful, my queen. A beautiful lie may outlive any ugly truth." Then spring bled into searing summer. Orchards thickened, grain sprouted green upon blackened fields, and the Wolf-Rose banners multiplied like wildflowers. Sansa traveled ceaselessly. Old Town for harbor charters, Ronwood for sand-dusted accords, Ashford for a moot of petty lords. At every stop she listened, bargained, consoled. At every farewell she left behind new roads, new wells, new graves for old grievances. Yet empire is never birthed without pain. Bandits raided supply trains near Kingsgrave. Florent cousins plotted with Stormlord exiles. A ship's strike in Old Town nearly strangled grain exports until Sansa, in a dawn meeting with Alaris the Sphinx, repriced harbor taxes and gambled half her treasury on subsidies that saved both sailors and stomachs. The treasury groaned. Baelish reassured. Harding sharpened swords. Far off in King's Landing trumpets mourned lost influence. Bran the Broken Warg King sent ravens inked with gentle warnings. Tyrion, hand to the king, penned letters praising Sansa's compassion while cautioning against her steward's excesses. Each message Sansa filed like a shard of glass, useful to cut when needed. Late one violet dusk, she stood atop Highgarden's highest rebuilt tower. Below, Lanterns floated in garden pools where once lilies had nodded. Somewhere across that darkness, she knew, Baelish plotted tomorrow's alliances, Harold drilled new-minted footmen, Maester Giles tallied debts. But here, alone with the southwestern breeze, she tasted salt and rose honey on her lips, mingled with iron. Queen in the west, the nightingales seemed to sing. But for how long west? And where lies south? Her answer drifted on the stars, as far as the road carries the rose, and farther still for the wolf. The hour would come when King's Landing turned from wary envy to pointed steel, when Storm's End awakened its thunder, when the Iron Islands tested her coasts. Yet tonight, the garden's wet earth smelled of hope, and the horizon blushed with the promise of dawn. Not too quickly, she whispered to the wind, repeating the mantra with which she had begun this journey. We will make them wait. We will teach them patience. And when the long hour comes due, the west will bloom in winter. Below, unseen, a mockingbird trilled. Half sorrow, half laughter. All prophecy. Okay. Summer heat drowned the reach in blinding white haze, baking the half-reaped fields until stalks of barley rattled like dry bones. South of Highgarden, the earth lay fractured where dragonfire had once scorched furrows deep enough to swallow oxen, yet already the scars were hidden beneath young shoots of grain coaxed from the ash by farmers desperate for one good harvest. They sang northern work songs now, verses taught by Queen Sansa herself as she rode from village to village, because the old Tyrell melodies made too many widows weep. She rode again this morning, before the bellflowers curled shut against noon. Sir Harold Harding kept a wary half-pace behind, flanked by 6 Vale Lancers whose blue falcon cloaks snapped in the wind like restless wings. Ahead, Maester Giles and 3 surveyors charted the contours of a new canal. Sansa's gambit to redirect a tributary of the Mander northward, greening fields parched since the dragons. The project would drain half the treasury, Littlefinger warned. Yet coin in chests grew rust. Coin in earth returned wheat. At midday they halted beneath a lone ash tree. Giles unfolded ink-splotched parchment across a saddle plank, pointing with quill to a knot of rivulets converging west of Bitterbridge. If we dig here, the water splits. One stream east to the canal, one south to Tumbleton, he explained. But we must acquire the Marchand farmhold, whose heirs are 3 sisters under the guardianship of Sir Bonifer Hasty. Sansa finished, surprising him. Bonifer rides with the Holy Doves now. We'll provide marriage portions, forgive last season's tax in exchange for deed. Have the clerk draft terms. Giles blinked. At once, your grace. Harold met her gaze with muted approval. You've memorized half the Reach by heart. Not yet, she murmured, eyes on the horizon where summer lightning flickered without thunder. But the land speaks. You only need listen. Lightning spat again. Closer. And suddenly thunder did reply, not from cloud, but from horses. A rider galloped up the dusty track, garbed in rough-spun and sweating buckets. Your grace, he gasped, reining hard. Randil Tarley marches. 300 swords from Horn Hill, bannered and grim. They cross the Cockleswent tonight. Harold's hand dropped to the hilt of his longsword. 300 is no raid. Nor is it an army, Sansa said, though unease stirred. Why march without Harold? They swore fealty. The rider shook his head. Their ravens fly. The message is clear enough. Sir Dickon Tarley broke oath and fled north seeking King Bran's pardon. Lord Randall means to prove Horn Hill loyal by cleansing Baelish's stain. That stain, Sansa knew, was Baelish himself. Rumor of the Lord's imprisonment had spread in whispers, morphing into tales of torture and poison. She drew a steady breath. How many men can we muster within a day's ride? She asked Harold. 200 Vale Lances, 100 levies at Ashford, maybe 50 Rose Guards still drilling near Highgarden. Enough to resist, but not overwhelm. We resist then, she decided. Send word to Littlefinger. Hold Highgarden, but do not sortie. I will meet Lord Tarley on the field myself. Then so. Harold stiffened. Your Grace, if he sees only Baelish banners, hell smell deceit. Let him see the wolf rose. Let him hear my voice. And there. Dusk settled like smoke on the approach to Pharaoh's Gap, a shallow valley flanked by knotted apple groves. Sansa's column occupied the northern ridge, the Tarley host arrayed to the south in disciplined blocks. Shields painted with green huntsmen leaping over red flames. Horns sounded, a low, mournful challenge. Harold raised his visor. They form wedge. Heavy infantry center, wings of mounted bow dow, Nando, and archers on the ridge behind, murmured Sir Miles Hightower. Called south from Old Town to command the Rose Guard. They mean business. Sansa let her mare pick a path toward the shallow center ground, 2 standard bearers trailing. She carried no helm, only her circlet and the mantle of winter roses clasped at the throat. When she reined in within arrow shot, she saw Randyll Tarley already advancing alone, visor up, beard iron gray and full of scorn. He stopped 5 paces short. Lady Stark, he barked, refusing the courtesy of her royal title. I come for the schemer who holds your leash. Baelish kept me caged like a cur, spun lies with my seal. Now he'll answer. Sansa kept her face serene. Lord Baelish is my steward. His sins, if any, are mine to answer. Release your men from this march, and we discuss grievances in council, not crimson mud. Council? Tarley snorted. You barter roses while wolves nip at the realm's throat. A true queen would march east, break the lion's hold on King's Landing, not sculpt some petty dominion in charred gardens. Bah. You mistake patience for passivity, Sansa replied. The realm bleeds from 1,000 cuts. We stitch each wound before the body can rise. If you fear the lion's paw, join us. I join no kingdom founded on trickery. Stand aside, or be struck aside. He raised one gauntleted hand. Horns shrilled behind him. His ranks began to move. Sansa felt her heart lurch, yet her voice remained even. So be it. Let the gods judge. And, She turned her horse, retreating under the cover of 2 knights' shields. Arrows hissed overhead, warning shots only, but the message clear. Dialogue failed. Back on the ridge, Harold swung into the saddle, face grim. They'll test the Vale Center. Our levies may buckle. We hold. She said. Push the flanks. Their archers anchored on the south orchard. Set fire to the dry grass. Smoke them out. To Miles, take Roseguard right, cut their horse at the knee. Harold, keep reserve. She drew no sword. Hers was command. But as horns called reply and men surged down the slope, she felt each heartbeat like a drum. The clash erupted in the Vale's heart. Steel on wood, the grunt of impact, the thud of hooves into churned dust. Flames licked across brittle underbrush where torches flew. Smoke curling thick and black. Tarley's mounted bows coughed. Horses whinnied in panic amid fiery haze. The wedge slowed, then faltered. Screams of wounded carried high. Sansa positioned herself where all could see, banner streaming. The wolf rose, neither advancing nor retreating. Slowly momentum shifted. Vale lances punched through the wedge's exposed flank. Reach levies locked shields with huntsman pikemen. Flames crept to Tarley's command hill. Smoke blinding archers. And amid the confusion, Miles Hightowers, elite spearmen struck the rear line, wheeling left like a scythe. When horns of recall finally sounded from the south, twilight bled across ground littered with broken shafts and moaning bodies. Randyll Tarley, blood matting his greaves, fell from the saddle grappling with 2 Vale men. One ripped away his helm, the other pressed blade to throat. Harold advanced to take custody, but Sansa waved him back. She dismounted and walked alone across the churned earth. Tarley lay on one knee, jaw set even as blood dripped from a cut above his brow. Well? He rasped. End it. Prove your ruthless steel. Sansa knelt, ignoring blood staining her skirts. Hornhill's strength lies in unflinching honor. But honor can blind when pride narrows the gaze. Look about, Lord Randall. How many sons lie gasping for breath because we failed to speak? His eyes flicked to the dead. Huntsman and Rose Guard, intertwined, indistinguishable, in mud. A muscle jumped in his cheek. They followed me. They followed fear. Her fingers pressed the ground between them. Fear of deceit. Fear of change. Fear of watching the realm slip beneath unknown banners. Let me banish that fear. Ride with me to Highgarden. See the ledgers. Speak. He stared, chest heaving. Night insects buzzed around smoking brush. At last he muttered, "You'll parade me in chains. Chains win no loyalty. Ride free. Sword in belt. Only word I require is that Hornhill stands down until judgment made." Then bow. Silence stretched. Then Randall Tarly bowed his head, grudging as stone. 3 days truce. After that truth will decide. She rose, offered a hand. He ignored it, but staggered to feet unaided. Harold stepped forward to escort him beneath banner of peace. And now, in candlelit council 2 nights later, Tarly pored over scrolls annotated by Maester Giles. Harvest quotas, relief grants, fair tax rates. He questioned each column. Giles answered with detail. Sansa watched him wrestle figures like battlefield maneuvers. At length Tarly set Quill aside. "You levy half what the Lannisters demanded, yet fund repairs thrice as costly." "Impossible." "Possible with partners," Sansa said. "The Arbor loans interest-free grain ships. Dorne supplies water after we gift them rights to northern citrus orchards. Old Town families invest for shares in flour mills that will double output when canals finish. We weave alliances not through force, but mutual need." Tarly grunted. "Baelish spins need into nooses." "Baelish spins." "But I choose the thread." She looked him straight. "Help me choose better. Teach me caution where harvest becomes waste. I ask not fealty but service. Be my marshal of the marches. Guard borders, train levies. You know war. Bid it stay south." His mouth parted, astonished. "You would entrust me." A good ruler entrusts those who challenge her. Without challenge, I grow complacent. She extended a parchment sealed with rosewolf wax. "Accept, and your sons' sons may inherit lands richer than before the dragons." Tarly's fist closed around the parchment. After a breath he knelt, clumsy, stiff with pride. But the hall exhaled in relief. And then, oh. Littlefinger found her on the terrace at dawn, orange light painting tower stones burnt gold. He clasped gloved hands behind his back. A rival conquered not with chains but titles. "You surpass even my imagination. I surpassed your trap," she said without facing him. "You caged a lord to brandish as leverage. I freed a warden. You risk much trusting an enemy. Better an enemy beside me than behind me." She turned, mask of queenly calm slipping enough to reveal tired lines. "And better a steward who remembers his station." His smile froze, fissured. "Have I offended your grace?" Her reply was soft and lethal. "My realm cannot endure secrets seated in dungeons. Another such plot, and your services will be forfeited." She stepped past him. "Remember who chooses the thread." Baelish watched her go, eyes narrowed to slits. For the first time in years he felt a chill that was not feigned, a foretaste of losing control. But his lips soon curved. After all, control need not be absolute, only sufficient to tip balance when needed. And word of the battle at Pharaoh's Gap spilled like wildfire across the reach. Bardic tongues exaggerated numbers until 300 grew to 3,000. Until Sansa's 20-odd conversation paces with Tarly, became a single whispered phrase that bent a battle to her will. The Queen's mercy. Merchants toasted the phrase. Small folk wove it into prayers. Lords wary of rebellion reconsidered when they saw a Marshal Randall Tarley drilling troops in wolf rose colors. From Old Town, a fleet of 90 ships, unfurled sails, stamped with a merman argent and blue. Lord Wyman Manderley himself presided over the lead galley, though gout confined him to a cushioned throne lashed to the deck. On the road from Bitterbridge rode Dickon Tarley, recalled by Raven, flanked by 50 Stormlander volunteers, now sworn to the Queen in the west. And through it all the harvest ripened. Golden seas waving beneath blue skies, as if the land remembered what plenty felt like. Yet beyond borders storms gathered. In King's Landing, King Bran's council fractured over response. Ser Brienne of Tarth urged patience. Sansa was her friend, no traitor. Sir Davos cautioned that starving the realm's breadbasket would doom winter survival. But Lord Gawain Lannister of the Westerlands, new hand after Tyrion's quiet resignation, argued that a rival sovereign in the west threatened unity, trade, and the crown's prestige. Ravens flew to River Run, to Harrenhal, to Casterly Rock, summoning oaths long dormant. On the Iron Islands, Queen Yara Greyjoy eyed the arbor lanes with hungry fancy. Reach grain sailing to Pentos without escort offered easy plunder. In the Stormlands, Gendry's courtesy turned to frustration as Storm's End received no word from King's Landing approving his withdrawal. Whispers reached him that Bran's council viewed his retreat as weakness. Among his smiths the hammering grew harder, forging new breastplates embossed with twin hearts. One crowned stag, one open to flame. Now, Midsummer's Eve Sansa convened the first assembly of the West, beneath Highgarden's newly arched rose vault. Lords sat on carved benches, Rowan, Fossaway, Crane, Merryweather, while lesser knights and guild representatives crowded galleries. Maesters recorded minutes. Septons murmured blessings. Sansa opened with the simple accounting of what had been accomplished. 8 villages rebuilt, 2 canals begun, 3,000 bushels distributed interest-free, banditry reduced by half. Applause thundered. But then she outlined what loomed. Levies of stone for winter holds, levies of wheat for inland Dorne, levies of silver to fund a harbor patrol that could deter Ironborn raids. Murmurs swelled. Some anxious, some resistant. Lord Paxter Crane rose. Why must we pay Dorne's thirst with our grain? They fought against us for generations. Ben see. Because we now share boundaries of drought and flood, Sansa answered. The Red Mountains feed Mander's springs. They choke or they flow. Water rights are cheaper than siege engines. A wine factor from Old Town raised trembling hand. Harbor Patrol draws coin from trade, yet coins are scarce. Could we not petition King's Landing for naval escort? Sansa's calm tightened. King's Landing may answer or may demand tariffs triple our own. We must learn self-sufficiency. Nenderal. The debate crackled, like summer lightning until Sir Randall Tarley stood, voice cutting through like drawn steel. The Queen in the West has done more in 10 weeks than the Iron Throne managed in 10 years of war, he declared. I bled today so my grandson need not bleed tomorrow. When winter comes, do you want a capital drowning in politics dictating your rations? Or do you want grain houses on every crossroads, gates guarded by your own sons? Silence. Then applause, hesitant at first, built until the vault rang. Resolutions passed. 10% levy of midsummer surplus. 2 ships per coast house. Rotating militia drills under Tarley's command. Palatable now that Tarley himself endorsed. Later Sansa thanked him privately in the Solar. He shrugged. You offered me trust. Time I spent some for the realm. Still, he eyed Baelish, hovering like shadow near window. Their truce remained fragile, but for now it held. And now, that same week a sealed message arrived from King's Landing bearing Bran's sigil. An invitation, no, a summons, to attend council in the capital before first frost, to seek peaceful resolution and reaffirm the unity of the 7 kingdoms. It was addressed to Lady Sansa Stark, formally titled. Nowhere was Queen in the West acknowledged. Sansa read it at breakfast among honey-glazed pears. Baelish watched her eyes. They bait you. Travel east, you lose momentum at home. Refuse, you brandish rebellion. Harold Harding shook his head. Could be genuine. Bran's not blind to winter risk. Ben so. Blind or not. I owe him audience. Sansa said, but not alone. She looked to Tarly, to Miles Hightower, to Lady Shira Baratheon, newly arrived with crates of Storm Cecil marble for canal locks. An embassy will ride. I will display our unity in living flesh. Baelish opened his mouth. Sansa cut him off. You remain. Oversee grain loans, supervise canal dredge, and send ravens north. I will not stand accused of plotting separate crown without informing my brother what truly blooms. Baelish bowed, fingers curled tight. Yes, you command. But once she was gone to plan the embassy, he retired to a narrow turret whose windows carved slits of light across dusty tomes. There he penned secret letters, not to King's Landing, but to River Run, to Seaguard, to the twins. He wrote of trade routes reopened, of tolls abolished, of queenly coin eager for stone cutters and smiths. To each, he dangled a promise unique. Lothar Frey was offered marriage prospects. Lord Jason Mallister, exclusive tithe-free grain holds. Edmure Tully, shipments of river-safe timber in exchange for barges. Divide them with gold, bind them with grain, he whispered, sealing wax beneath signet. Long before swords are drawn, loyalties will shift. He remembered Sansa's warning but convinced himself it served her in the end. A realm cannot stand solely on open trust. Shadows were mortared between bricks of daylight. And the embassy left Highgarden with late June cicadas rasping. Sansa rode at its heart, circlet, shimmering in sun. On her right rode Randall Tarly, standard of the Wolf Rose quartered with huntsmen. On her left rode Lady Shira Baratheon, flouting color lines in gown of storm-cloud silk over crimson leather brigandine. Behind trotted 6 Hightower guards, a dozen Vale knights, and 2 wagons laden with casks of arbor gold, gifts for King's Council. They crossed the Mander, past Bitter Bridge's still smoldering reconstruction, and turned northeast along the Rose Road where summer travelers clogged lanes. Pilgrims to the Starry Sept, farmers driving ox carts to market, peddlers hawking eel pies and jugs of cider. Many stepped aside to stare at the banners, some bowing, some whispering. None spat. Sansa counted that an early victory. On the 4th night, they camped beneath the bones of the Blackwater Rush Bridge, still ruined from the fires of dragons and wildfire both. As cooks stirred onions in iron pot, Sansa walked the riverbank, thoughts as restless as the tide. Above her, the stars spread cold and clear, yet the horizon to the east glowed faintly. King's Landing, ever burning something. She recalled its terror, its smells. Dead horse, acrid smoke, hot tar. She had left there a girl hostage to a monster. She returned a queen, but the stones held memory. Footsteps behind. Gendry Baratheon emerged from darkness, armor buffed but dented. He had ridden north from Storm's End with 30 Smith soldiers to add weight to the embassy. He offered her a wineskin. Bad luck, he said, riding into that city thirsty. Bad luck riding in at all, she replied. Sipping, they watched moonlight quiver on black water. Gendry scuffed a pebble. King's Landing's restless. Bran rules quiet, but lords beneath him feud like fleas. They'll fear your crown, Sansa. Some will want it crushed. She traced the wineskin's seam. Fear can be soothed if given shape. And if shape is sword, then sword may lay sheathed until rust. I aim to dull their urge to draw it. Gendry's chuckle was low. Hope you master that trick. My smiths would rather hammer plowshares. They spoke of small things then. Market prices, new forges in Ashford, the taste of the season's first strawberries. Under the hush of night, their war-torn spirits found brief sanctuary in ordinary talk. And approach to King's Landing days later revealed the city encircled by scaffolding. Masons patched walls scarred by dragonfire. Carpenters raised new towers where wildfire had chewed through stone. But the stench remained. Tanneries, cesspits, charred slums along Blackwater banks. Sansa's party halted at the Dragon Gate, where gold cloaks formed stiff ranks. A commander stepped forward. By order of His Grace Bran the Broken, Regent of the Six Kingdoms, weapons surrendered before audience. Tarly bristled. A breach of safe conduct. Sansa lifted a hand. We comply, but our sworn shields remain armed at camp. Bow. The commander nodded. Steel was yielded. The party escorted through winding streets where faces peered from windows. Fear and fascination mingled. Some shouted, "Queen in the West." Others spat, "Northern Witch." A cobblestone throne glanced off a Vale Knight's pauldron. Gendry's glare silenced further missiles. The Red Keep rose stark against the afternoon sky. Distant towers pocked like honeycomb where repairs lagged. Inside the long throne room echoed emptily. High windows draped in white silk to catch sun instead of banners of old. No iron throne dominated now. Bran's council governed from a plain weirwood-carved dais. The king himself sat in wheeled chair of dark oak, head crowned by woven bronze circlet. Beside him stood Ser Brienne, white cloak pure as driven snow. Lord Gawain Lannister hovered near, ink-stained fingers curled. Sansa slowed. Heart hammering. She had not seen Bran in years. The boy now a man, eyes ancient as gods would. She bent knee, though not too deeply. Your Grace. Bran's voice was distant as winter wind. Sister, rise. She obeyed. Counselors murmured. Sansa felt their gazes weigh crown and mantle, weigh each lord behind. Bran studied her as though watching two birds converse far off. Queen in the West, he said at last. Title gifted by those who follow me, sustained by their oaths. She replied, I come to render account and seek accord. Lord Lannister interjected. Accord cannot stand while subjects crown themselves and cleave the realm. Breadbasket or no, the reach belongs to the king. You owe fealty. Then? Tarly's voice boomed. My men swore to the Lady Stark because she feeds them when the capital sends parchment. Fealty flows where duty is met. Gawain's lip curled. Duty to rebel coin. Bran raised a hand. Silence fell. The realm cannot bleed further, he said quietly. Winter creeps. The dead may lie, but famine does not. Sansa, what seek you? She met his gaze. Autonomy to manage the West's harvests and defenses, without interference in internal levies. In return, we pledge grain tithes to feed crown lands, a river road for royal traffic toll-free, and 2 seats upon my assembly reserved for king's envoys. Mendoine. Council erupted. Some intrigued murmurs. Sir Davos stroked beard thoughtfully. Brienne whispered to Bran. Lord Lannister slammed palm to table. You propose a kingdom within a kingdom. Where then are the Stormlands, the Vale, the Reach proper? Torn to pieces. Already torn, Sansa answered. I merely stitch anew. Bran closed eyes. When he opened them, they seemed deeper black. I see many threads, he said softly. Some break, some bind. If I tug wrong, cloth unravels. He turned to Davos. Bring me scrolls of grain tallies. Harbor ledgers. I must measure offer truly. Gawain braced. Your Grace, delay emboldens dissent. Delay may save winter famines, Davos growled. Let numbers speak. And so debate began, spanning 3 days within torchlit chambers, where Sansa unrolled budgets. Giles answered. Tarly testified. On second dawn, Bran summoned archmaesters via glass candle. Alorys the Sphinx appeared in green fire, delivered harvest forecasts. By third dusk a framework emerged, recognized the Kingdom of the West as a semi-autonomous vassal, bound to the crown by annual tribute of grain and silver. Its queen sworn to render troops if realm threatened. In exchange, King's Landing granted non-interference and reopened mint credit to fund canal works. Lord Lannister opposed bitterly, but Davos, Brienne, and Maester Wolkan backed. Bran weighed, then nodded. So shall it be, until realm mended. A quill scratched. Bran affixed seal. Sansa signed. The hall exhaled. Some in relief, some in dismay. Gendry clapped Tarly's shoulder. Shira squeezed Sansa's hand beneath table. That night in her guest chambers, candlelight danced upon vellum charter rolled tight as promise. She stared at it, knowing tomorrow tongues across Westeros would call it folly or genius. A knock. Sir Brienne entered, eyes soft. "You fought well." "With words," Brienne said. "I feared steel would sing." "Steel still may," Sansa murmured. "But for now harvest sings louder." They embraced, two women once shaped by cruelty, now shaping realms. In the cellars below the Red Keep. Shadows listened too. Various little birds were long scattered, yet rumors' nests remained. A hooded figure passed coin to a pair of urchins, instructing them to carry messages to Flea Bottom, to cobbler's stalls, to a silent ship anchored off the Blackwater mouth. These messages spoke of grain caravans, of lightly guarded canal dredges, of timetables for the Queen's return. Somewhere islands of iron stirred. An return journey carried the embassy west under heavy skies. Storm clouds built. Summer's first true tempest. Rain lashed banners. Soaked mail. Churned roads to sludge. Near the ruins of Maidenpool, scouts rushed in. Iron-borne longships spotted off the coast, raiding granaries. Sansa halted column under dripping pines. "How many?" Tarly demanded. "6 ships. Maybe more behind." The scout said. "They torch warehouses." "Steel barrels." Gendry cursed. "Yaris doing." Harold surveyed map. "We can reach the coast in 2 days flat, but wagons slow." Sansa wiped rain from lashes. "We split." Tarly and Hightower ride light, intercept. I take wagons inland. Gendry rides with me. Stormlander hammers may be needed at Highgarden. Tarly nodded. Ironborn love plunder, not pitched battles. We harry them until they flee. They broke ranks. That night Sansa's party slogged through mud, hooves splashing black pools. She rode beside Gendry, both cloaked in dripping fur. Thunder boomed. "Think Tarly can turn them?" she asked. "Old man's stubborn. Ironborn will find more resistance than they fancy." Gendry replied. "Still, raids cut deep. Need that harbor patrol. We'll launch 2 months early," she decided. Dawn crept through ragged clouds to reveal burnt villages along coast. Smoke still coiled from charred barns. Sansa dismounted to comfort survivors. Sharing remaining arbor wine as antiseptic for wounds, promising grain wagons inbound. Among ashes she glimpsed a dead child clutching wooden toy seahorse. Rage lodged in throat like bone. That night she penned decree. Any Ironborn captured in western raids to face trial not at sword point but in fields they burned, sentenced to rebuild, under guard, until debts repaid. A mercy crueler than death, some said. Sansa deemed it justice. Weeks later Highgarden's towers loomed, but as they approached, banners flew at half-mast. Baelish met her in courtyard, wearing black, his face grave, eyes assessing. "What sorrow?" she asked. "Maester Giles succumbed to fever," Baelish said softly. "He worked through nights preparing canal drafts for your return. Exhaustion opened door to plague from Lowtown." He extended scroll. His last calculations, they finalized budgets. Sansa grieved, yet suspicion flashed. Giles seemed hale before she left. But no proof. That night she drank spiced wine alone in Solar, reading Giles' elegant figures. At margin a note. Beware false loans from Seaguard. Terms favor phrase. She frowned. Baelish had courted phrase. Coincidences gathered like clouds. And now, autumn crept sooner than expected. Leaves bronzed, nights chilled. Harvest caravans rolled east laden with tribute. Along each route rode Vale Lancers, Reach pikemen. Stormland Smith soldiers, their badges unified. Ironborn raids dwindled. Rumor of Tarly ambush at Stonehelm spread fear of crossbows dipped in wildfire. The canal completed first sluice. Waters surged, drowning old scars beneath fresh life. In Old Town, Manderley merchants negotiated new wharf expansion. In Sunspear, Dornians toasted northern citrus blooming in desert gardens by means of Reach engineers. But winter whispered still. Along the neck, Bolton rebels stirred. In the riverlands, Frey hirelings prowled ferry crossings. In Casterly Rock Shadow, Lannister bannermen drilled. Sansa stood on Highgarden's highest parapet, circlet catching the pale sun. Beneath her banners unfurled, Wolf rose side by side with crowned stag of Storm's End, Merman of Manderley, huntsman of Tarly, falcon of the Vale. An alliance of necessity, fragile but vibrant. Littlefinger joined, coat snapping in wind. The tapestry we wove is beautiful, he said. But pull one thread, then we weave another. Her eyes never left horizon. He smiled a thin line. Ever the seamstress. She turned at last to meet his gaze. And seamstresses know needles pierce flesh, as well as cloth. His laugh was genuine, low. Touché, my queen. Below, bells of the rebuilt Rose Sept began to ring. Steady, hopeful. Farmers gathered to dedicate first grain sacks to the gods. Children chased petals thrown from balconies. Somewhere merchants haggled. Soldiers whistled, lovers whispered in alcoves fragrant with jasmine. And in this moment, brief as dragonflies flicker, peace reigned in the west. But peace is merely breath between storms. Sansa inhaled, tasting rose honey and distant salt, tasting the future. We endure. She whispered to wind. Wind carried the vow across orchards and canals, over rivers and fields, into mountains where ravens watched. And the realm listened, wondering how long the queen's mercy would hold before winter once again demanded its due. And in the days that followed the Rose Sept's consecration, Highgarden swelled with a kind of wary jubilation, the sound of hammers and lutes sharing the same warm air. Caravans rolled in from as far as Wickenden and the Blueburn, each bearing tributes, casks of saffron mead, sacks of arbor saffron, bolts of Myrish lace traded for western barley. The castle's courtyards hissed with boiling dyes, clanged with smithies reforging plowshares, echoed with schoolchildren reciting the seven-pointed star under new teachers imported from Old Town. It felt, to those who had lived through fire, plague, and dragon wings, like rebirth in slow motion, petals unfurling hour by hour, as though the very stones were relearning how to breathe. Yet beneath the fresh mortar, fault lines groaned. Each morning Sansa received bundles of raven scrolls at her breakfast trestle, petitions from minor barons, tallies of missing sheep near Tumbleton, sightings of Lannister scouts on the sea road, rumors that Harrenhal's New Castellan had quietly amassed 500 sellswords. She answered most in her own careful hand, sealing each letter with the Rose Wolf, but a few she forwarded to Randall Tarly in the marches. When the scent of candle wax lingered too long, she set them aside for later reading in the Godswood. That private sanctuary had been replanted in Highgarden's northeast corner with saplings ferried down from Winterfell itself. A clutch of white weirwoods, a dozen black pines, and one stubborn rowan that refused to bend to the southwestern gales. Amid that hush of alien foliage, she found respite, and spies. For ravens perched in those branches more often than songbirds, their claws clacking against bark, as though transcribing every whispered prayer. One chill morning near Harvest's End, Maester Raleigh, guileless underscribe promoted by need, approached her there, The young man's chain still smelled of fresh solder. "Your Grace," he murmured, bowing until his spectacles slid down his nose. "Word from Old Town. Archmaester Orwell confirms your charter has been added to the Ivory Archives, but he encloses a warning." Sansa raised a brow. Rowley produced a narrow strip of parchment, sealed with the silver ring of ravenry. She broke it with a thumb, eyes scanning Orwell's spidery glyphs. "Storm upon the Reach. Western debtors call in loans. Greyjoy fleets gather beyond Fair Isle. Consult the ledger of the doom of Lannisport for precedent. Have care." She closed her eyes. So the Iron Islands stirred again. She thanked Rowley, dismissed him, and lingered among the trees, branches whispering above. Greyjoy fleets gather. She pictured Yara's salt-stained face, that half-grim smile as she declared the Iron Islands neutral under King Bran. Neutral so long as plunder remained profitable. Now with the West's grain fattening holds, profit beckoned. She summoned council that evening. Tarly returned riding hard. Miles Hightower off duty from the canal trenches. Lady Shira Baratheon cloaked in seal fur against the coastal winds, and Lord Petter Baelish lounging in sable, his smile a thin knife. They met in the Ivy Hall, where green vines crawled across vaulted ceilings, lanterns tinting the air emerald. Reports confirmed 2 iron-borne longships sacked salt pans north of Seaguard. Miles began, tapping a map pinned with iron thorns. Another 3 raiders burned eel districts at Maidenpool. They flee seaward before men can rally. Tarly's jaw clenched. If they probe the bite, harbors along northern shore will follow. Grain holds their feed half the riverlands. Baelish twirled a quill. Imagine the lion's delight if starving riverlords blame the queen who promised them surplus. Sansa ignored the barb. How many hulls can the West launch within a fortnight? 8 river galleys under Manderley, Miles said, plus 4 arbor wine runners hastily refitted. But warships they are not. Shira rested gloved palms on the table's edge. Storm's End can lend 5 cogs, if the crown releases them. Gendry's smiths fit them with prow rams and springolds, yet they rust waiting for royal orders. Baelish clicked his tongue. Relaying on King's Landing invites delay. We require a deterrent of our own. He unfurled another scroll. Higher rates from the Lysine seahorse captains, the 3 sister smugglers, even a brave Ozzy condottiere famed for silent boarding parties. Sell sails crave winter coin. Contract them now, anchor them off Greenshield. Ironborn prefer easy cattle to bulls with horns. Tarly's eyes narrowed. Sell sails bleed loyalty at first breeze of gold. Lys might accept Lannister coin tomorrow. Baelish's smile grew indulgent. Which is why contracts hold heirs as collateral in safe harbors. An old Braavosi custom. Sansa interjected. Enough. We'll not barter children for peace. Rowley, write Lord Manderley, he is appointed High Admiral of the West. Instruct him to assemble every reachable hull. Commission local fisher captains. Arm them with scorpions and lamp-oiled clay pots. Shira, dispatch Raven to Gendry. Request permission for those 5 cogs under mutual command. Tarly, fortify river locks. Ready river pikes. Baelish lifted a finger. And gold, my queen? Commodities require coin. Our treasuries shrink. Mendenmeinsher. Wendy. Sansa's gaze cut to him like drawn steel. Then unlock the veil letters of credit you secured in my name. We will repay after harvest surplus sells in Dorne. He inclined his head, but she saw the flicker of annoyance. Those letters had been his private hedge, now conscripted. She pressed on. Dismissed. We act before reavers taste more blood. They filed out, boots scraping mosaic. Baelish lingered. May I counsel alone, your grace? She remained standing, arms folded. Speak. A show of strength is prudent, but a whisper can strangle a reaver before the blade draws. He leaned close. A raven to pike. Offer Euron's bastard nephew's trade rights, salt fish for grain at fair measure. If they leash their kin, appeal to greed, they'll police their own. Pike respects nothing but iron price, she said. Yet even iron bends when heated by hunger. I can draft the letter, anonymous of course. She hesitated. Littlefinger's words always glimmered with half-truth, but his network reached darkest waters. "Do it," she decided, "but share every word with me before it flies." He bowed, lips brushing the air near her hand. "As you will." That night she found rest elusive. Candles guttered while ink dried on her replies to Manderley and Gendry. Beyond stained-glass windows, Highgarden's torch rows danced in autumn breeze. Shadows long and doubled. She heard them whisper, "Beautiful lie may outlive ugly truth." Whose lie and whose truth remained tangled. And now and then, iron-born raiders, drawn by plunder, met their first snare at the mouth of the Mander. On a cloudless dawn, Manderley's makeshift flotilla appeared as a ragged line of fishing luggers sprouting new masts. The reavers, expecting fat granaries, steered in laughing. But when they drew abreast, unfurled to reveal scorpions glistening like mantis jaws. Flame jars sailed through sky, smashing across pine decks. One long ship caught fire so fiercely it drifted into another, the pair nodding like burning serpents. By dusk, 3 iron-born crews surrendered. Manderley chained captives to grain warehouses, forcing them to haul sacks until their shoulders bled. Word raced along the coast. The West had teeth. Yara Greyjoy received news on Pike's storm-lashed tower and cursed, yet sheathed her axe for the moment. Plunder costlier than honor was no plunder at all. Back in Highgarden, victory cheers filled the Ivy Hall. But Maester Rowley soon entered pale with worry. Frey Herald arrived at the gates, he whispered. He carries red wedding relics, cloak pins of Robb Stark's guard, and demands audience. Sansa steadied her breath. Send him to the Rose-Sept Chapel. He can wait among the statues. She would not grant reception in the throne room. That ground belonged to grace, not ghosts. The herald, a thin man named Wylis Frey, arrived draped in gray-trimmed blue, his cadaverous face pitted by old pock scars. When Sansa entered the chapel alone, candles painted him sickly gold. He bowed stiffly. "Lady, pardon, Queen Stark. My lord Sir Edwin Frey, Lord of the Crossing, offers condolences for past pains." He extended a velvet pouch. Inside lay wolf-head cloak clasps, dulled by dried blood. Sansa's pulse thundered, yet her voice stayed calm. "Condolences come late. Regret endures," Wylis rejoined. "Sir Edwin proposes restitution. 30,000 gold dragons, plus ferry rate exemption for Western grain. In return, you guarantee safe passage for Frey shipments downriver and resigned any charges related to previous hostilities." Sansa weighed the pins in her palm. Their weight dragged memory to the bear pit, to the screams at the twins, to her mother's face. She imagined hurling them into the chapel brazier. Instead, she slid them back, pouch strings tightening. "Restitution demands truth," she answered. "Edwin must stand trial before Northern and Riverlander courts. If found guiltless, I confirm trade. Until then, he remains oathbreaker." The herald's mouth puckered. "Unacceptable. This generosity. Tell him the North remembers," she said, turning away. "And now, so does the West." Wylis departed, sputtering threats. That evening Baelish visited her solar, eyes gleaming. "Spurning coins when coffers strain, bold. I will not buy peace with ghosts," she said. "Yet ghosts whisper louder unmet," he cautioned. "Frey may court Lannisters next." "Let them," she answered. "Cersei's line rots in rubble. Sir Gawain's gold buys banners, but not loyalty of farmers too long bled. I feed them." She rose. "Enough counsel tonight. The realm's heart still beats. I must hear it." She walked Highgarden's battlements beneath Swan Moon. Gardens shimmered with dew, and somewhere distant a woman sang lullaby in low Kiskari tongue. Only then did she permit tears, silent. For her mother. For Robb. for blood that still stained silver pins. She vowed never to wear them, but she would keep them as steel reminder. Mercy must never forget. Winter's first kiss arrived as frost along canal banks, turning newly dredged mud to glazed ivory. Workers hammered iron spikes at dawn lest earth shatter planks. The goods of the West had begun their long journeys south and east. Barley to Storm's End, apples to Sunspear, sugar beets to the Vale, fleece to River Run. But every wagon train drew eyes. Bandit flurries emerged, some wearing rags, others bearing sigils scraped off old Lannister shields. Tarly called up more patrols, but roads multiplied quicker than men. In Vale's whisper-quiet courier hall, Baelish hosted a confidential dinner with 3 merchants from Gulltown. They supped on quail and honeyed turnips, while he extolled the Queen's grain contracts, downplayed taxes, hinted at exclusive cloth charters. The merchants signed provisional notes that promised shipments of fish oil barrels and slate for castle repairs. Yet behind their neat seals, Baelish had inked a hidden creed, a side clause granting him first claim to any profits exceeding 20%. These documents he stored in a cedar chest only he controlled. Late that night, he penned another letter, this one addressed simply to the Lion's Den. It offered intelligence. Sansa planned to convene a winter moot at Ashford, where lords would publicly declare independence unless the crown honored her autonomy outright. He emphasized that striking at Ashford could cripple her cause. He implied he would ensure minimal guard presence. But on a separate scrap, he wrote a cipher. Hold blade, show sheath. Chaos soon. This scrap he burned after memorizing. The next morning, Baelish stood beside Sansa at the rampart as they watched wagons roll out, and his smile shone innocent as baptism. She did not see the stain of smoke on his cuff. Snow fell by moonlight as Sansa's entourage rode toward Ashford for the winter moot. Banners cloaked to protect die, hooves muffled in knitted wraps to avoid spooking villages await. Spirits were high. The canal sluice had doubled grain capacity, and Manderley reported stores full enough to export thrice the crown's quota. Farmers along the road greeted them with lantern-lit cheers, offering steaming bowls of chestnut stew. Children wove garlands of dried rose hips for the Vale Knights' lances. But on the third night, as the column camped amid birch thickets, a scout dashed in red-faced. "Gold cloaks," he panted. 400 strong, 2 leagues south. Flying lion banners among the kings. Tarly swore. Owen Lannister. Harold Harding's eyes narrowed. "We hold oath of safe travel ratified by the king." "King's ravens slow," Tarly muttered. "Steel quicker." Sansa's expression hardened. "We break camp now. Form hollow square, wagons center, torches doused. We reach Ashford before dawn or not at all." Snow thickened, muting hoofbeats. The column advanced through moonless dark, every breath a plume. Behind them, through trees, glimmered torchlight, gold cloaks threading the forest like fiery serpents. The chase began. At a frozen ford their progress stalled, ice too brittle for wagon weight. Tarly ordered planks laid, but axes rang as Lannister outriders plunged ahead. Arrows whistling. Vale shields rose. One arrow glanced off Sansa's forearm, ripping velvet but drawing no blood. She refused to stop. Gendry spurred forward with storm-forged hammer, flattening 2 riders who reached the wagons. Tarly's scouts lit fox oil bombs, hurling them to shatter among pines. Blue fire roared, forcing pursuers to detour. But losses mounted. A Manderley archer skewered by crossbow. 2 oxen down. Dawn bled gray when Ashford's walls finally appeared across white field. Horns atop its towers blared alarm. Sleepy guards scrambled to unbar gates. Sansa's column poured through just as Lannister van crested the rise. Gold cloaks reined up, unwilling to storm a walled town under prepared bows. Inside, townsfolk ushered her retinue into the keep. Doors bolted. Harold saluted. Safe. For now. Sansa pressed a cloth to her bruised forearm. Now we hold the moot under siege. Under one. Lannister tents sprang across snow like saffron blooms, their command pavilion bright with cloth of gold. Lord Gawain himself rode the perimeter, red hair flashing behind lion helm. He delivered ultimatum by arrow fired into Ashford's courtyard. Surrender Queen in the West to royal custody for questioning. Disband unlawful banners. Grain tithes shipped to King's Landing at once. Sansa unfurled the parchment before assembled lords inside the keep's drafty hall. Their murmurs rose. Outrage. Treachery. The king would not sanction this. Lady Shira slammed fist on oak board. Gawain's overreach. Bran cannot know. Tarly suggested a night breakout. Hammer east. Link with Manderley River Patrol. But Miles warned walls lacked provisions for prolonged siege. Townsfolk would starve first. Harold pledged Vale trebuchets hidden in wagons could be assembled overnight. Choices piled like snowdrifts. Sansa listened. Silent. Finally she said, "We will hold the moot as promised. Today. Let lords see the lion's claws at our throat. Their decisions will harden." She sent Rowley to copy meeting notices, nailing them on tavern doors. She commanded every town bell rung. Citizens gathered in Market Square, breath ghost white as cowslips, eyes flicking past ramparts to yellow war tents. Fear thickened air. She tasted it, briny and electric. The moot convened in Ashford's sept, pews crammed. Bread and salt rituals began, but the air cracked with unease. Sansa spoke slowly, recounting River Patrol victory. Canal yield, Manderley's fleets. Then she pointed to stained glass windows catching winter sunrise. Outside these walls stands a host brandishing lions and royal banners alike, demanding surrender of your queen and your grain. They claim your labor belongs to distant purse. I say your labor belongs to your children, your hearths, your future. Da. Murmurs swelled into shouts. Aye, the West stands. Tarly rose, pledging Marcher's steel. Shira swore Stormlander ships. A dozen petty lords followed. They signed the Ashford Covenant, affixing seals in red wax. The West autonomous under Queen Sansa, bound to the crown by trade but free in arms. The covenant scroll measured arm length, rolled and tied by blue ribbon. That evening, horns sounded. Lannister envoys sought parley. They were admitted to the gatehouse where Sansa awaited in plain riding cloak. The leader, Sir Domeric Lannister, Lord Gawain's cousin, removed helm, snow-dusting curls. Your Grace, my lord, offers generous terms. Dismiss your column. Accompany us to the capital peacefully. The king must hear truth uncontested. Sansa unrolled the fresh covenant. Here's truth. Lords of the Reach, Stormlands and Vale stand with me. Harm me and you war with them. Withdraw, Sir Domeric. Carry our treaty to King Bran himself. If he rejects, let him send his own ravens. Not lion claws disguised in gold cloaks. Sir Domeric swallowed. Lord Gawain acts on council's mandate. Council's? Or his own purse? Shira cut in. We heard of Lannister grain speculation. Domeric flushed. I obey, my lord. Sansa's eyes softened. Then obey. Carry message. No blood need spill. She offered sealed scroll. He hesitated, then accepted. I pray this ends peacefully. So do I. She whispered. Next dawn, Lannister banners struck camp, marching east with Sir Domeric at head. Gawain's rage echoed across fields, but could not defy his cousin's oath to bear treaty. Ashford exhaled relief. Snow slackened. Church bells tolled thanksgiving. And now, yet victory's glow waned swiftly. 3 days later, ravens returned from King's Landing. Bran summoned Sansa again, alone, citing charges of sedition lodged by the Hand. Provide explanation within a moon's turn, or be declared in open rebellion. Sansa paced her solar parchment crumpling in fist. Baelish entered, face pious with concern. The lion roars, the dragon sleeps, the stag hesitates. Time to choose cunning over courage. He proposed an answer. Meet Bran at Harrenhal, a neutral ground, and bring only 10 companions. Simultaneously dispatch fleets to blockade Blackwater, forcing negotiation leverage. A dagger at throat persuades quicker than a plea. She studied him, memory flicking to smoke on cuff, to secret letters. cunning or treachery. Perspective, he said. She dismissed him, claiming fatigue. When door shut, she unlocked cedar chest Rowley had newly catalogued from Baelish's quarters. Its lock yielded to hairpin. Inside she found merchant contracts bearing her forged countersignature. Vale credit lines, Brevosi loans mortgaging 2 future harvests, even collateral claims on canal tolls. She felt blood drain. These deceptions propped her treasury now. To cancel risked ruin, to honor chained her to Baelish's schemes. A cold clarity settled. He thinks himself indispensable. But a kingdom tethered to lies could not bloom. She summoned Harold, Tarly, Shira, and Miles. They stood silent as she laid out documents. Eyes flared, curses hissed. Tarly slammed fist. Hang him. Shira wanted exile. Miles urged caution. His network touched every port. Remove him and information collapsed. Harold offered quiet solution. Arrest on forgery. Isolate until crown dispute settled. Sansa listened. Then whispered, "We do neither yet. He built this realm alongside us, even with half-truth. Unweaving abruptly may snap threads. For now we clip his wings." She drafted decree relieving Baelish of treasury oversight, appointing a council of 3, Rowley, Lady Shira, and a Manderley factor. To audit accounts, Baelish would remain Lord Steward of royal guest quarters only. The Lord signed. Seals cooled wax with finality. When Baelish received summons to Solar at noon, he arrived, smiling. The smile faltered at sight of guards flanking doorway. Sansa sat behind ledger-strewn desk, crown absent, wolf brooch pinned. "Lord Baelish, as of this hour, you're relieved of fiscal duties," she said evenly. "A special commission will review your books. During audit, you remain guest under guard, free to advise but not command." He inclined head slowly. "A safeguard. How wise. Of course I yield any ledgers you require." She kept gaze steady. "My clerk already secured them." A flicker of genuine surprise crossed his face before mask returned. "Then, I am redundant." "Not redundant," she corrected, "but restrained." "Restraint chafes," he murmured. "So does betrayal." She rose. "Reflect, Petter. Decide which kingdom you serve. One built on trust or on clever knots that strangle even their weaver." He bowed, but as he departed, she sensed a coil tighten rather than loosen. Enderall. The audit unearthed both treasure and tinder. Hidden revenue streams, yes, but also debt webs linking Bravos, Pentos, and even the Iron Bank. Fortunately, Rowley discovered a loophole. Many contracts contingent on Baelish's continued stewardship. Strip him, and obligations lapsed. The realm forfeited some credit, but avoided crushing debt. Shira and Manderley negotiated new loans on transparent terms, pledging harvest shares and shipyards as collateral, but only if Bran ratified the Ashford Covenant. Thus the Crown's cooperation became economic necessity. Sansa drafted a second letter to Bran, enclosing audit findings, confessing partial negligence, pleading for joint Royal West oversight to stabilize realm finances. She sealed it with both her Rose Wolf and Tarly's huntsman. Then she dispatched Gendry, trusted and close to the king's circle, to deliver it by fast galley. And weeks crept. Snow deepened. The fields lay glassy under pale suns. Inside Highgarden, furnaces roared. Children skated icy ponds. Septons preached thrift and gratitude. No word came from King's Landing. Then, on a moonless night near midwinter, horns tore through gardens. Fires flickered atop watchtowers. Sansa rushed to ramparts in fur over gown. Below, a cloaked figure was dragged by guards, caught scaling postern wall. They unmasked him. Sir Byron Swan, a minor knight once sworn to Baelish's household. Under torch glare, Swan spat. "The steward sends regards. Tell your queen Winter's thorns will pierce softer than my lord's retribution." Interrogation revealed a plot. Baelish had arranged safe carriage with hidden gold. Intending to ride for Brackenlands, and then to Pentos, where sell sales awaited. He planned to return with exiled riverlords and Bravosi creditors to reclaim his influence, by force if needed. Swan's capture foiled departure, but uncovered network of bribed gate sentries. Sansa convened midnight council. Harold advised immediate execution. Rowley argued for trial. Tarly demanded Baelish under iron lock. Sansa agreed. Guards found Baelish's chamber empty, furniture untouched, bed unslept. A single note on pillow bore Mockingbird's seal. Chaos is a ladder. Some climb, some cling. Farewell, my queen. Tracks led to hidden braid hatch in outer wall, then vanished into orchard snow. The fox had slipped the hound. And panic threatened, but Sansa steadied counsel. He is gone with nothing but silver tongue and promise, she said. We have grain ships, lords. We stand. Now. They closed gates, doubled watch, cancelled winter solstice mass. But morale dipped, whispers rose. Some feared Baelish would weaponize debts, lure Ironborn or Lannisters anew. Sansa penned letters of assurance to every bannerman, dispatched messengers with legal copies of the audit proving debt void. She visited dockworkers personally, standing on crates amid sleet, pledging wages. She met cobblers and scribe guild masters, forging charter to fix grain prices through winter. Gradually confidence rebuilt, but the queen's shoulders bore heavier load. In private, she confided to Giles Weirwood saplings, voice raw. How many plots until soil runs dry of trust? The trees gave no answer, yet their red leaves glittered like drops of wine in starlight. Silent witness to vow renewed. And no. On the first day of the new year, ravens arrived from King's Landing at last. Bran accepted audit proposals, voided Gowyn Lannister's authority over gold cloaks, ordered his recall under pain of treason, and appointed Sir Davos Seaworth royal envoy to the west. More. Bran acknowledged the Ashford Covenant, granting the West legal autonomy as custodial palatinate, sovereign in domestic affairs, allied in defense. Jubilation surged, bells rang till clappers cracked. Davos himself arrived within a fortnight, cloak dusted by salt and snow. He met Sansa in the Rose Vault, hands warm and rough. The king misjudged council intrigue, he admitted. Your steadfastness spared half the realm famine. He presented a carved box of weirwood and ebony. Inside, a crown circlet of hammered silver and pale green tourmalines, forged in the capital's royal smithy. Bran sent it as symbol, Queen Regent of the Palatinate West. Sansa accepted with tears she did not hide. But Davos' eyes held concern. Baelish's flight troubles us, he said. Reports place him in Harrenhal's ruins under Frey escort. He courts disaffected lords, whispers of debts due, sellsword reinforcements set to land in the Trident come spring. Sansa's jaw tightened. Then we meet him before seeds sprout. Tarly warmed at prospect. Marcher lances would ride at thaw. Gendry offered river flotilla. Manderley promised supply barges. Shira sharpened Stormlander axes. But Sansa cautioned, we ride not for conquest but closure. This serpent's head we cut clean, or his venom spreads. She penned final decree for winter muster at Bitterbridge. Every house to send 2 and 10 men, food for 30 days, ready by first blossom. Maester Rowley drafted logistic plans. Miles mapped pontoon routes. Harold trained cavalry in river fording. On winter's last full moon, Sansa descended to Highgarden Crypt, where old Tyrell bones rested beneath carved roses. She lit a lonely candle for Margaery, remembering perfume of summer wine, memories of a girl once promised to another realm. She whispered apology for stones torn and rebuilt under wolf banners. Then she stepped back, letting shadows reclaim marble petals. When she emerged, dawn painted frost silver. She donned the new crown, its green gems catching first light. Trumpets sounded. Town criers proclaimed Queen Regent Sansa of the Palatinate West. Farmers knelt in muddy streets. Children waved bakers' paper flowers. Septas cast petals upon her path. Above, falcons of the Vale circled with shrill cries as though heralding sunrise over snow. In the courtyard, banners awaited. Wolf rose in center, flanked by huntsman, mermaid, stagheart. falcon. She mounted a dappled mare, sword-belted. Not an ornament now, but promise forged. Harold handed reins, Tarly saluted. Shira winked. Davos nodded with half-smile. Sansa raised her hand. For harvest kept and winter weathered, she called, voice ringing across rampart. For debts paid in sweat, not tears. For truth over whisper. For mothers and sons and lovers, whose names will seed tomorrow's songs. We ride. Hooves thundered out the gate, clods spinning. The road stretched white and dazzling beneath clear sky, leading northeast toward the trident sleeping menace. Behind them, Highgarden's bells tolled farewell. Notes neither mournful nor triumphant, but steady, anchored, enduring. As the column dwindled to specks against snowy fields, Littlefinger, for somewhere he watched, might have smiled at the game resetting anew. But even he, cunning as winter fox, could not rewrite the lesson blooming in the heart of the Palatinate. That a garden tended by many hands roots deeper than any single gardener's ambition. And beneath the frost, unseen shoots readied themselves to blossom come spring. Bright, resilient, and thorned, like the queen who had planted them.